we were like nobodies. And I then got lucky and made a film in Hollywood, and Danny called me up and said, it's time. The problem is he was too old. So, but he had a great idea. His brother, Luis Valdez, who's a great Chicano artist and writer and dramatist, we got him to write the script, and then Luis directed it. I produced La Bamba. Was the first and the biggest, most successful Latino film in the United States. Unfortunately, it's still the most successful. There should have been many, many more that made more money than that. But anyway, we're really proud of it. After La Bamba, and it was a big success, I wanted to go on and I wanted to do another film. And this is a different film. This film is dark. It's not the American history story of making it in America like La Bamba was. This was a film about the dark side of Chicano culture, and I was worried about it. And the film would not have happened, the things that you know, the lines that you know, because that can't come from me, is the writer. And the writer was a man named Jimmy Santiago Baca. And Jimmy Baca is a poeta. You have to understand that Jimmy Baca, he's writing about La Pinta because when he went into the Pinta, he only spoke Spanish. He learned English. He ended up by winning the National Book Award for poetry. This is a story of a man educating himself and a great, great writer. And I was worried about this film, and Jimmy said, hey Taylor, you can do La Bamba and it's great. But those little chavalitos from Islos, you know, who had not a chance in the world, if you don't tell their story, you're not telling my story. So on the basis of that, as an hermano, as somebody that really was my creative partner, Jimmy Baca came on, and his words are here. Whether they're, you know, give me some chon chon, which is his line, or Montana saying, I don't want his pork chop, I want his life. Or any number of things. Jimmy has a way of speaking that is poetry. And the actors that we chose, and we're going to have them up here tonight, the actors were able to take his words and making them come alive. And let me tell you, when you're an actor, you know if it's real or not. The reality of Blood In, Blood Out comes from Jimmy Santiago Baca and from every man and woman that is in this cast because they lived it. They are from this community. And that was important to me. So the fact that you're here and the fact that we, I hope, did something that's lasted, and if you're here, it fills me with orgullo, you know, huge, okay? So right now, I want to introduce my partner, my brother, Jimmy Baca, who could not be here because he's in Nueva Mexico working, but he sent something, and you know, true to the poeta, I'm sure you're going to hear something interesting.
Hi everybody, thanks for letting me share this morning with you as you guys are having this great gathering for Blood In, Blood Out. I can't begin to tell you how that film has changed my life and how in my travels I've witnessed how it's changed millions of other people's lives. I couldn't even begin to tell you some of the great stories I have, but I did want to say that meeting all the actors, working with you, working with Taylor, the good old homeboy still that I have is my friend, and all of you that I still have as friends, I can't begin to tell you how inspired I am by the work that you do on a daily basis, how Blood In, Blood Out came together on faith, how Taylor was able to interpret it, how all you actors, man, just amazing that you're able to participate in this spirituality, this music of the magic world, where you're able to go into somebody else's body and mind and cross that bridge where you disembody yourself. I bow down to you actors and actresses for the enormous, enormous talent that you displayed in Blood In, Blood Out, that was able to go out into the world and even transverse cultures, go into the cultures and metamorphosize so many people who thought about themselves through the lens of Blood In, Blood Out. So thank you very, very much. I wanted to read this poem for all of you to show you that, just a little bit of what I felt. It's called The Door, after Jim Morrison and Doris. But after all of you, this goes to all of you. Thank you so much. When I walk through the door, I am Gandhi. When I walk through the door, I am shade. When I walk through the door, I throw my worries away. I let my frustrations go. All the ill will I have for others, I just let it go. I brush my sleeves of the uncertainties of yesterday, and when I walk through that door, if someone should ask you, tell them I'm Ali. Tell them I'm Cesar Chavez. When I walk through that door, when I take a step forward, when I turn the corner, tell the world should they ask, I am who I dream myself to be. Scientist, doctor, dancer, poet, actor, actress, let the whole world know I am who I dream myself to be. Tell them, there goes the poet, there goes the painter. Tell all them racists and cynics out there, all the haters, I will not let them influence how I see myself, that I'm shaped by the loving hands of a dream, and no one makes me as they wish. Tell them, please, from the conference halls and the classrooms and the movie sets, from every street corner and market where you meet, tell them you have seen me and you have talked to me and that I am who I dream myself to be. When I opened my eyes this morning, I surrendered to my greatness. I knelt down before the sun and I opened my arms to embrace my full being. My potential to be who I am in this world. Leader, athlete, teacher, father, husband, everything. Tell them I am no longer am the woman or the man they knew. That I have found a way to love myself. And you close your eyes now. When you open them, know that when you walk through that door, you are Mother Teresa, Zapata, Anzaldúa, Betita, Sor Juana, Celia Cruz, Menchu. And when the moon rises over the mountain, she's going to light your way in the dark. Because the night is young, brothers and sisters. The night is young. And we got mountains to move. Mountains to move. Thank you. I sure appreciate it. Have a great time. God, blood in, blood out. Love it. Love you people. Onward. Onward. Adelante como siempre.
Okay, wow, wasn't that wonderful? So those were the words that you heard in the movie, and now we're getting ready to do our panel. We have 12 people from the movie. Actors, cinematographer, artists, tattoo artists. These are legendary characters that you all know and the work that you've seen in the movie for so many years. How many first generation, like the first time you saw your movie, this movie was this year? Okay, how many, you saw this movie like 5 years ago? 10 years ago? When did you discover it? 10 years ago? 20 years ago? Woo! And you still watch it, right? Okay, Taylor, if you could take your seat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there, yeah. And can we have the actors come on up so that we can start the panel discussion? Okay, you can sit right here. In back of the mero. Here, right here. Yeah. Los prisioneros here. Los vatos locos over here. Freddie. Jenny. Okay, this was a real male-oriented movie, of course, but we have the mother, Jimmy Baca, who played the mother. Thank you for joining us. Gabriel, right here. Okay, are we all here? We're all here. And Adan and Consuelo. I'm here. Okay, good. Okay. Really quick, I'm going to go around. Everyone's going to say their name and the character they played, or their position, or what they did for the film, and then we're going to get started with the questions. Okay, we start with
Freddie Negrete, tattoo artist.
Woo!
Gabriel Beristain, cinematographer.
The Look, Jesse Borrego, Crucito.
Taylor, director.
Enrique Castillo, Montana.
Jenny Gago Lupe.
Mike Genovese, Sergeant Devereaux.
Jeff Rivas, Carlos. Cocaine is America's cup of coffee, eh?
Carlos Carrasco, Popeye. Give me some John John.
Victor Rivers, Magic Mike. What line? Wait, which line? I'll give my life to you, Jefe. El Gilbert. Hey, Cosito, congratulations. I did all the arte for Cosito.
Ray Oriel, Spider. Check out the new view, homies! I'm gonna build myself a righteous pad here. Swimming pool, white picket fence and shit.
Consuelo Flores, cultural consultant specializing in the Day of the Dead scene.
Raymond Cruz, I played Chewie.
Hey, Vatos Locos forever!
Valente Rodriguez, I played Frankie. Hey, your eyes are turning brown, come out. Taquita brown.
Okay, since everyone said a line, Crucito.
Oh, my favorite line is, we come out chased by hounds, wearing a pinche rabbit's foot for luck. But we got something better than a rabbit's foot. We got familia, raza.
My favorite line in the movie is, we should be taking care of each other instead of fighting over street corners.
Okay, so let's get started with a wonderful information about the movie, a little tidbits that you can tell all of your friends and family who watches the movie. Taylor, why did you decide to make a movie about Vatos Locos and prisoners, and what was the genesis of this movie?
Well, I think, you know, as I said before, Jimmy Baca said to me, this is a story that needs to be told. You know, when you look at Jimmy Baca's life, running in the streets, getting in trouble with the law as a young kid, going to jail early, and watching how he turned his life around. And what he said was, these three cousins, they are all related, they all have different stories, and each of their life changes. That's a story worth telling, and it's a story about La Raza, it's about my culture, and I agreed with him. I mean, as I said, I grew up with my friends who were Chicano, and I went into their houses, and their parents would speak Spanish to them, they'd turn around and speak English. You know, it was a time where there was, you know, that sense of pride, which I've watched grow. I went to South America, I lived in Bolivia, I learned Spanish, and I came back with different eyes about my culture here in Los Angeles, and realized it's really a Latino town, you know, and at the time I came back, people didn't know it. So my job, it seemed to me, I tell a lot of different stories, but the idea of doing stories that celebrate Chicano culture was something I wanted to do. And with La Bamba we did it, and with Blood and Blood we did it, but I did it with Jimmy Baca. And one thing I want to say here, you know, what was important to me was to make this film deep in the blood of what we were, the communication, what we're trying to make of the culture. So to find Adan Hernandez in San Antonio, a great American painter, a great American painter, you know? To actually, as you can say, Crucito is talented. You got to see that he's talented. And when Jesse, you know, spent all the time with Adan and learned and painted, but those are Adan's paintings. They're puro Chicano paintings. And they're, you know, this is a Pachuco. He grew up as a Pachuco. But he ended up by making paintings that transcend, like all great art does, culture. And in that instance, that's, you know, that's very important. You know, to get, where's Freddie? To get Freddie Negretti, You know, Freddie Negretti learned his craft of tattooing in San Quintin. He actually was there, understood it, and I wanted him to actually put the paintings on bodies that is so important to guys in the pinta. So casting these actors, which was a long, laborious process. I want to mention Rick Pagano, who is the casting director, you know, and Sharon Viali, who was also his partner. These two people brought these people to me, and I can't tell you how many actors we saw, because Jimmy Baca wrote really interesting characters. You know how hard it was to find a Popeye? You know, I also want to mention, you know, there are two members of the original Vatos Locos who are not here tonight, Ben Bratt and Damian Chapa. And they would have been here. Damian is in Europe working, and Ben is in Atlanta working. And he's told me if they don't make me work all night on Friday night, I can be there. But of course they did. So they send their love to you. They would have been here. Luckily we've got Crucito and the other members of the Vatos Locos here. And I want to also say Gabriel Bernstein. Gabriel is Mexicano. He came here from Mexico. He has a very political background. You know, when I asked him to do this, I said, I want a look. I want a full, rich look that's going to embody this culture, and he gave it to us in such a beautiful way. So all of these people were cast, but the important thing is they had a passion for this project. Every single one of us believed in the project. We didn't have all the money in the world, but we believed that we were telling an important story. And tonight, it does us a huge amount of good and pride to know that you feel the same way. So thanks, and I just wanted to just basically say this was something we thought, and again, it came out of the pen of Jimmy Baca.
Thank you, Taylor. Okay, let's hear about who did you cast first? The Vatos?
Yes, the first people cast. I got to tell you, the first people cast. You know, it was always an interesting story. Crucito was, you know, Jesse's from San Antonio, and he came in. He's a man with a lot of integrity. He went to Cal Arts. He does things. And I said, "Hey, man, I want you to do it." He looked at me like, "You want to make a film about Chicanos?" And it was like he was giving me that eye, you know. But you know, the important thing was to get that working, and he was always Cruz, and he was the first one cast. The second one cast was Ben Bratt, and Ben Bratt, very interesting. He came in, and he said, you know, as actors will say to you, he said, "Hey man, this spoke to me. I gotta play this role. It's my life." And I'm thinking. Cool, it's his life, that's great. He's gonna play Paco. He looks at me and says, "No man, I'm playing Miklo." And if you know Ben Bratt, he's puro indio, no? Puro indio, his mother is Peruvian, his father is German. So Ben came out, you know, this is what happens in, you know, La Raza. Ben came out, his mother, puro indio, but in his mind, he wanted to play Miklo because he identified so man. I said, "I'm sorry, but it ain't gonna work that way. Paco's a great role." And then we looked and looked and looked and looked because I made up my mind. There are a lot of white actors, there are a lot of Caucasian actors that can play Miklo because Miklo is half and half, but he looks white. And I turned a lot of, and I won't tell you who, but some of the great actors that wanted this role. We looked and looked and looked, and finally Rick Pagano brought in Damian Chapa. Damian Chapa is the opposite of Ben Bratt. His father is puro Chicano, his mother was from the Ozarks, and he came out looking like his mother. But it works for Miklo because that is the story, and as Jesse said, he came out hating his own white skin because he wanted to be Latino. And the character as Miklo, which is a tragic character, is that, so that's the order they were cast in. Then everybody else came in as they came, and it was not easy, believe me. I mean, finding somebody that's going to be able to embody the power and the elegance and the belief of Montana, not easy. And Kiki came in, and it was very interesting to see because when he came in and he had all these guys, they immediately fell into line behind Montana. He was the mano mano, right? And he took it. I said, man, I can't do it. You got to take it and you got to make them believe in you, and he did. So all that was a joy because when you cast, you can't take the easy way out. You got to go for it until you find the right people. You know, Ray Oriel, you know, from San Pedro. I mean, you know, can you imagine the beginning of this film without Spider? He was amazing. So every one of these people were, I think, inspired. Jenny playing Miklo's mother. You know, the great thing about it is Miklo being a white father, you see a little bit in the beginning of the movie, and a Chicano mother. You know, it all works, and you as La Raza know the way this works. It's a very complicated community. So anyway, I'm going to shut up and let everybody else talk. But it was a passion that you have to understand, when you are not of that, you trust the people around you. Jimmy Baca was there. I gave him a role. I got to tell you one interesting story. Jimmy, as I said, served 8.5 years in the joint. And he got out and he won the National Book Award. He appeared everywhere. I said, Jimmy, I need you. I need you to be in this movie. Not as an actor, although I'll give you a role as an actor. I need you next to me because you got the real voice. He says, okay. So we go to San Quentin. When you go into San Quentin, and I want to mention other people that are here. You know, Tom Tolles, who is unfortunately dead. Lanny Flaherty, who plays Big Al. How about that character? Big Al was amazing. And Billy Bob Thornton, who you probably all know, was one of his first roles ever. Billy Bob Thornton came in wearing 145 pounds. I knew him as a writer, a professional writer. And over the course of time, when you go into the joint, you see all these guys, and they're built. They're really built. Billy Bob knew he looked puny. By the end of the shoot, he weighed 205 pounds. Went from 140 to 205. I said, you're an actor, man. I know you're an actor because he went in. But the important thing is that everybody had to live this part. When we went into the joint, we took 9 Chicanos, 3 blacks, 3 whites, and then we traveled with 300 cons. Every day they were our extras. That's a scary thing, and you have to sign something when you go in the joint. They say, we don't have a hostage policy here. There's a problem. That's it. And I'll tell you how this worked. When you go to the joint, when you're in a prison, the warden is the dictator. He's the president. He's got all the power. And the warden of San Quentin Prison was a guy named Danny Vasquez. And I went in to meet him in his office, and he was a tough son of a bitch. But I looked at him, and he's sitting across from me. I look right here. He's got a placa. This is a guy who knew what this film was about. He ran, you know, he was in a clique when he was a kid. It turned his life around. He was in law enforcement. He was running. He trusted us, and we were in his world. And as we went in there, all of these guys, when they were working next to guys that were doing life sentences, the whole thing. So when you see this film, and the same thing in Islos, when we had chavalitos who were working with us, who were the real deal. When we prepped this film, I had Jesse and Ben and Damien go and live in the barrio. They lived there to be able to, I said, listen man, you're all from different places, you gotta understand the neighborhood you're from. And they got into some pretty hairy stuff they might tell you about. But the important thing was, as actors, they were committed. The whole movie, that was the thing, they were committed. So that's what I was.